Welcome back to Steel City Sports. So a couple days ago, the finalists for the NFL awards were announced. So they put 5 people in each category. Some of these races, we know exactly who's going to win. I think some of them are more close. So we're going to talk about all of it, and I'm going to rank the 5 people that they've laid out in each category. Starting off with Coach of the Year. So as you can see, I've already ranked them out. So for Coach of the Year, usually for me, what Coach of the Year is like the guy who does the most surprising of a job in a given year. Like, oh, we thought you were going to suck going into the year, but you were actually really good. That's why last year Brian Dable won Coach of the Year, because nobody expected the Giants to make the playoffs. They actually went on to win a playoff game last year. So Coach of the Year for me is kind of like guys who led their team to really overachieve given their expectations. Number 5, I have ranked here John Harbaugh. The Ravens were already kind of projected as contenders, so them being the 1 seed this year didn't really surprise me. And I've never really been the biggest Harbaugh guy, personally. It's probably because I'm a Steelers fan. I'm just probably subconsciously wired to not like John Harbaugh, but I just think he's a little overrated. I think he's really good at building staffs. Like, he always has some of the top coordinators, but just from like a X's and O's standpoint, I don't really know what John Harbaugh really brings to the table in that department. So he's at 5 for me. 4 is Kyle Shanahan. If you've listened to me in the past, you know that I consider him to be the best coach in football. But again, the Niners were already considered to be a contender going into the year. So them being a 1 seed doesn't really shock me much at all. But he has a lot on the line, obviously, in this Super Bowl. I already said that if they don't win it this year, I don't think they're going to get it done, just because I think this is the perfect roster. And a lot on the line for Shanahan, because I'm not going to be able to call him the best coach in the league anymore if he loses this Super Bowl to Andy Reid, which many consider to be the best. Number 3, I have DeMeco Ryans. So the top 3, I think you can realistically argue any of these 3 guys are Coach of the Year. For DeMeco's case, the Texans were ranked as one of the worst going into this year. They just picked number 2 overall in the draft last year. They had a rookie head coach. They had a rookie quarterback. And it just seemed like they were a couple years away from really being a competitive team. And instantly, year 1, took the Texans from last place in their division to first place and actually won a playoff game against the number 1 ranked pass defense in the NFL. Completely changed the trajectory and the culture of the Houston Texans around. So if you have him as your Coach of the Year, you're going to get really no complaints from me. Number 2 is Kevin Stefanski, and I actually did do a video about a month or maybe a little more back saying that he was my Coach of the Year. So, I can still see the argument for Kevin Stefanski, definitely, just for the fact that you look at his quarterback situation, had basically a carousel of quarterbacks, 5 different starters this year, including a rookie, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, Jeff Driscoll, I don't even know who the hell that is, a 58-year-old Joe Flacco, 6 games of Deshaun Watson. It's just kind of a mess. And the fact that he was able to win 11 games with that much going on, with Nick Chubb being gone for basically the entire season, I think is a testament to his offensive genius. He's already won a Coach of the Year a couple years back, so he's definitely a strong candidate. And then number 1, the guy I have actually winning the award is Dan Campbell. I think he in real life is going to win this award. Also, in the Lions, I did pick them before the year to win the NFC North, but they were a lot better than I think anyone expected them to be. To win 12 games, to make it all the way to the NFC Championship game and be up 17 points on the 49ers going into half. Like, they just had a monstrous year. And going to any team and making an NFC title run is impressive on its own. But to do it with the Detroit Lions, who have been consistently one of the just worst organizations in American sports for decades now, I think is even more impressive. So he's going to win this award. And next up is Offensive Rookie of the Year. I'm not going to spend too much time on the rookies because I already made a video yesterday ranking the top 10 rookies. So if you want to hear my thoughts on those guys, definitely go check that video out. But I have to say off the bat here, why is Kyron Williams not a finalist for Offensive Rookie of the Year? That completely just blows my mind that he wasn't even a finalist. Had over 1,000 rushing yards as a rookie, had 12 rushing touchdowns. That is complete bullshit that he's not listed as a finalist. But of the 5 guys that they listed, here's my ranking. Really quickly here, 5, Sam Laporta, already a top 3 or 4 tight end in the NFL as a rookie. He was incredible. 4, B. John Robinson really flexed his versatility. I thought he was more of just like a pure running back coming into the NFL, but he really showed his versatility in the pass game as well this year. 3, Jahmyr Gibbs was sensational. They didn't even really use him much towards the start of the year, but towards the end really came out. I think he's already one of the best running backs in the NFL and is a part of the best running back tandem alongside David Montgomery. 2 is Puka Nacua. Basically broke every rookie record possible, had the most yards in a season for a rookie, the most yards in a playoff game for a rookie, just to name a few. And then number 1, C.J. Stroud, not only the best rookie of this class, but I would argue the best rookie of all time. We talked about just a little bit ago the turnaround with D'Amico, but CJ obviously is a massive part of that, and he was awesome this year. I think he's already probably like the 7th best quarterback in the NFL. And next, we have Defensive Rookie of the Year. At 5, I have Joey Porter Jr. from my Steelers. Individually had some great moments this year. I think in man coverage was awesome, but definitely needs some development on his recklessness. He was one of the most heavily penalized cornerbacks in the NFL. I think there was a point this year where he even was the most heavily penalized corner, so definitely need to work on that, but definitely flexed his ability to play great man-to-man coverage as a rookie. Number 4, Jalen Carter put up 6 sacks with the Philadelphia Eagles and didn't even really start in most of the games, so I think he's going to have a much more massive role going into year 2, and he already has like just the physical traits of one of the best defensive guys in the league. 3 is Will Anderson Jr., had 7 sacks and was a massive reason for Houston kind of turning their team around. Already felt like a locker room leader as a rookie. Number 2, Devon Witherspoon, already. Like, there were given Sundays where he looked like he was a top 5 cornerback in the NFL. He was that good. I just love his physical ability. And he already, like, played number 1 corner for Seattle this year with Tariq Woolen out. And he was 5th in the NFL with pass defenses, And number 1, Kobe Turner was sensational for the LA Rams. 9 sacks as a rookie. To be the Rams sack leader whenever there's a guy on the team named Aaron Donald as a rookie is like mind-blowing. So he was awesome. And now we have Offensive Player of the Year. And to me, this is a skills position award. The quarterbacks have such a stranglehold on MVP that there should be no quarterbacks listed in Offensive Player of the Year. If you're a quarterback, your award is to go for MVP. Offensive Player of the Year should be for the skills guys. That's why I have the 2 quarterbacks that they nominated at the bottom of this list, because they don't belong in this category. If I had to put them in here, Dak's last place. We talked about Dak the whole year. He was one of the players we talked about the most on this channel, so I don't want to gripe too much about Dak. But obviously, like on paper, had his best statistical year, but really beat up on bad teams this year. A lot of Commanders, Jets, Giants. So to me, wasn't really that impressive, and didn't really surprise me when they melted down against an actual playoff team in Green Bay. 4, Lamar is the favorite to win MVP this year anyways. Had a phenomenal year, especially towards the later part of the year, really turned it up. I think his standout performance was against the Niners in San Francisco, and that to me was like, that game was like what I was pointing at, like, oh, well, it's different this year. Like, Lamar's really beating up on great teams on Christmas. That was a phenomenal performance for Lamar. And that was really the night he jumped up to number 1 in the MVP race. 3, CeeDee Lamb. So now we're getting into the actual skills position players. And I said, one of my best predictions for this year was me saying CeeDee Lamb was going to take a massive jump into being one of the best receivers in the league. And I think that was a good prediction, because I think CD, behind Tyreek Hill, is the 2nd best receiver in the NFL right now. Now, next year, that's probably going to change. Justin Jefferson will be back. Jamar Chase will probably be back with Burrow being healthy. But as of this season, I would rank CeeDee Lamb as the 2nd best wide receiver in the entire NFL. He was awesome this year. Number 2, Tyreek Hill. I had Tyreek winning this award for a majority of the season. I thought for sure he was going to crack that 2,000-yard mark, but He did get banged up towards the later part of the year and really slowed down with his production. But there's definitely a soft spot for me with Tyreek because I had him in fantasy this year. So I really, really, really liked Tyreek this year. And if you put him at 1, you're really not going to get much of an argument from me. But Christian McCaffrey was just on a different planet this year. I mean, he had over 1,400 rushing yards. I think he had over 600 receiving yards, I want to say. And he had like 9 straight games with a touchdown. He had like 21 total touchdowns. Ridiculous. I think he, outside a quarterback, is the most dynamic offensive weapon in the entire league. And next up, we have Defensive Player of the Year. This is the one I'm the most passionate about, being a Steelers fan. Number 5, we have DaRon Bland. It's kind of fascinating that he took over for Trayvon Diggs after Diggs got hurt, because I think they're essentially like the same exact player. They both take big risks in going for the big play interceptions, but just from a man-to-man coverage standpoint, they're both pretty lackluster in that department. I think they're both kind of overrated just because they get a lot of picks, but they also get burned a lot. So it's like a double-edged sword there. Like, you're going to get big plays more than other players, but you're also going to get burnt more than other players. So I like Bland, but I think he's a little overrated because he has 9 picks. People see that and think he's like one of the best corners in the league when he's not. 4 is Max Crosby. Raiders were a team we barely talked about this year, and for good reason, because there's just very little going on outside of Max Crosby. But he had a phenomenal year, 14.5 sacks. Probably one of the more underrated players in the league just because he is on the Raiders. Number 3 is Myles Garrett with 14 sacks this year. I think outside of Dak Prescott, Myles Garrett is the most overrated player in the NFL just because he was a number 1 overall draft pick. And he's a really good player. He's great. I'm not trying to take that away. When people say he's on the level of TJ Watt, shut the fuck up. No, he's not. You're stupid. You don't watch the games if you hold that opinion, because Myles Garrett does not have the pure ability to just change the trajectory of games like TJ Watt. TJ's a more complete player, and I will argue with anybody on that who thinks Myles Garrett is better than TJ. You just don't watch football if you have that opinion. Number 2 is Micah Parsons. I think he's probably the most complete defensive player in the NFL. Already is a sack machine with 14 sacks, but also in coverage, man or zone, he's also really great as well. So having that versatility, he's probably going to win a couple defensive players in his career. Number 1 is TJ Watt, had 19 sacks. Yet again, the sack leader. I think he's separated. He's on a different stratosphere than any other defensive player in the NFL right now. And I think he's starting to really get on that Lawrence Taylor level. The way he can just completely flip the momentum of any given game, whether it's with a strip sack, fumble recovery, interception. He can do it all. He's the most valuable non-quarterback in the entire league. And for most valuable player, we have at number 5, Dak Prescott, the most overrated player in the NFL. Completely inflated stats in the regular season, beat up on the Jets, the Commanders, the Giants. Anytime he played a real team, he completely shit his pants, and it really showed in the playoff game. It's a joke that he's even listed as an MVP candidate. Number 4, Brock Purdy. Had some ups and downs this year, but you can't deny the fact that he led in a lot of quarterback statistical ratings, so good year, but I don't think MVP level year. Number 3, Josh Allen. The Bills were such a weird team this year. I thought they were done. There was a point where they were 6-6. They just lost to Denver. They fired their offensive coordinator. Looked like they were self-imploding, but on the back of Josh Allen basically carrying their team into the playoffs, ending up as the 2 seed, and lost a close game against the Chiefs. I thought this was going to be their year to finally get over the hump of the Chiefs, but it wasn't. I don't think it was to the fault of Josh Allen, but he is legitimately one of the most unique talents in the league. Number 2, I really, really did contemplate putting McCaffrey as my MVP because he's that good. But ultimately, this is a QB award, so I think I'd look a little stupid if I put him as MVP. But I think if any year we were not going to have a quarterback as the MVP, this would have been the year. But McCaffrey, we already talked about him in Offensive Player of the Year award, so I won't really rehash that stuff. But obviously he was amazing this year. Number 1 is Lamar Jackson. People are going to look back on this statistically and be like, well, Lamar's stats don't really look like, this doesn't look like MVP level stats. Well, in the context of this season alone, he was the MVP. That's what, like, I hear everyone say when they argue against Lamar winning this MVP is, oh, well, he doesn't have MVP level stats. He doesn't have enough touchdowns. He doesn't have enough passing yards. Well, that was just kind of the weird year the league had, and that's why I said this should have been the year we didn't have a quarterback winning this award, but it's just so ingrained into the culture of the league that I guess this award just has to go to a quarterback. As much as I hate that, it's the reality of it, and Lamar was the most valuable quarterback this year in the regular season. Really, especially turned it up in the later half of the year, and like we said earlier, that game against the Niners on Christmas night was awesome. So that has been my ranking of all the award finalists. So if you made it this far, I really appreciate you listening to me. Go ahead and leave your list in the comments. Please like and subscribe.